In the vast canvas of existence, there are forces so immense that even the oldest civilizations of the cosmos speak of them only in whispers. Among these, two beings stand apart, each a god in his own right, yet alien to the very idea of divinity as mortals know it. On one side drifts Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, born from the death throes of the previous universe. He is the last survivor of a reality long since extinguished. Wrapped in armor that contains a hunger beyond mortal comprehension, Galactus is no mere destroyer. He is a cosmic constant, a necessary predator in the ecosystem of creation. Worlds are not devoured out of malice, but as a function of his existence. Without his feeding, the balance of the multiverse would collapse in ways even the Celestials dare not test. His approach is heralded by the fading of stars, his silhouette blotting out the light as planetary civilizations crumble under the shadow of inevitability. On the other side is Dr. Jonathan Osterman, known to those who fear or admire him as Dr. Manhattan. Once a human physicist, his body was torn apart and reassembled at the quantum level, granting him absolute mastery over matter and energy. To him, time is not a river but an ocean. He perceives the past, present and future as simultaneous. His thoughts stretch across timelines, galaxies and dimensions, making him both a prisoner and a master of inevitability. While Galactus feeds to survive, Manhattan exists outside the needs of survival entirely. He does not hunger, he does not tire, but he watches, always for eons. Their paths never crossed. Galactus roamed the vast corridors of Marvel's multiverse, while Manhattan's existence was tethered to a DC-flavored branch of reality. Yet the multiverse is never as isolated as it appears. The barrier between their realms, woven from quantum lore and narrative probability, began to fray. It started with a collapse in the outer edges of reality. Somewhere beyond the observable planes, a universe blinked out of existence, not destroyed by entropy, not consumed by Galactus. No, this one simply ceased to have ever been. Galactus felt it first, as a sudden absence in the song of creation. Dr. Manhattan saw it, not as a disappearance, but as a smear in the tapestry of time, an event that erased itself from the cause and effect chain entirely. Galactus traced the disturbance to an expanding zone of null, an area where the rules of reality did not apply. Worlds caught within it did not die. They unhappened. Stars were erased not into darkness, but into nothingness. For the Devourer, this was a nightmare beyond hunger. He could not consume what no longer existed. For Manhattan, it was a rupture in the deterministic structure of the universe, a chaos that defied even his timeless perception. Both understood that this was not a natural phenomenon. Something, somewhere, was rewriting reality. And so their searches began. Galactus dispatched his herald, this time the Silver Surfer, to scout the anomaly. But the Surfer's journey ended abruptly. He vanished mid-transmission, his existence swallowed by the null zone. Galactus felt the tether to his herald snap like a frayed wire, leaving behind only a cold void where the Surfer had once been. Dr. Manhattan approached the problem differently. Standing atop the Martian dunes in his native timeline, he split his consciousness across countless quantum possibilities. In some futures, he saw Galactus arriving on worlds that were fated to vanish. In others, he saw himself attempting to stabilize the bleeding edges of reality. In all outcomes, there was one immutable truth: their paths would cross, and when they did, it would not be as allies. Their first indirect contact occurred on the ruins of Erythra Prime, a jewel world rich in crystalline oceans and deep core energy. Galactus had intended to feed there, drawn by its rare cosmic resonance, but when he arrived, the planet was already wrong. The oceans boiled away without heat, the crust fragmented without force, and the history of the world seemed inconsistent, even in his ancient memory. Hovering above its shattered remains, Galactus detected a familiar frequency, the signature of atomic reconfiguration at the sub-quark level. Dr. Manhattan materialized moments later, his glowing blue form casting a faint light on the dead fragments of the planet. His eyes swept over Galactus, not with awe or fear, but with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing a specimen. "You are constant," Manhattan spoke, his voice calm, resonating in every direction at once. "Yet you consume to exist. In this place, neither constancy nor consumption matters. It is already gone." Galactus's voice was the thunder of collapsing stars. "You speak as though you understand what you cannot fathom. This void consumes not only worlds, but the balance of all things. Step aside, and I may yet find its source." Manhattan's gaze never wavered. "I am the source." For a moment the universe seemed to hold its breath. The declaration was not pride, nor confession, it was simply truth. Manhattan had not created the null zone, but his tampering with timelines, his merging of universes, and his casual rewriting of events had weakened the fabric of their separate realities. What began as ripples had become a tide, erasing entire cosmic structures. Galactus saw then that Dr. Manhattan was not merely a man with power. He was a walking paradox, a being whose every act disrupted the harmony Galactus was sworn, by the nature of his existence, to maintain. The Devourer's eyes burned with cold judgment. The blue figure before him did not flinch. In that instant, both knew their next meeting would not be an exchange of words. It would be war. The silence after their first encounter did not last long. Galactus returned to his worldship, the Tabusutos, and began aligning his machinery to compensate for the distortions Dr. Manhattan had caused. This was no ordinary preparation for feeding, it was a mobilization for war. His ship's colossal engines ignited with a hum deep enough to shake the quantum lattice of space itself, folding reality as he charted a course for the source of the growing null zone. Dr. Manhattan, meanwhile, did not travel in the conventional sense. He was already everywhere he intended to be. On one level of his perception, he stood on the shores of a dying star system. On another, he walked across the ruins of Erythra Prime, replaying its unmaking over and over like a record. He saw the battle to come, not as a possible future, but as an inevitable point, an event fixed like a star in the firmament of time. When they met again, it was above a drifting, half-erased moon in a system whose sun no longer burned. The stars here were dim smudges, swallowed at their edges by creeping waves of non-existence. Galactus's ship eclipsed the void, its towers and spires glinting against the darkness like the bones of a dead god. He emerged from it, titanic, armored, and surrounded by an aura of pure cosmic force. Dr. Manhattan appeared with no flash, no sound, simply there. His blue form seemed small next to the Devourer's enormity, but there was an undeniable gravity in his presence. "You will cease your interference, or I will end your existence. Manhattan, I have already seen you attempt it. You fail." Galactus did not reply with words this time. His hands raised, summoning the power cosmic into a beam wider than a city, a spear of starfire meant to obliterate a world's crust in a single stroke. It struck Manhattan dead on, and passed through him. The energy dispersed as if striking water, warping and fading into harmless ripples. Manhattan's counterattack was subtle but devastating. He reached into Galactus at the molecular level, attempting to scatter the Devourer's atoms across light years. But Galactus was no mortal body. His form was a stabilized construct of pure cosmic energy, bound by will and the ancient laws of the multiverse. Instead of unraveling, Galactus absorbed the energy manipulation and turned it back, detonating a shockwave that hurled Manhattan across the broken moon. The blue figure rose without injury, teleporting instantly to Galactus's side. Time around them bent as Manhattan reached into the concept of Galactus's hunger, attempting to rewrite it into satisfaction, to strip away his need to consume. For a moment, Galactus paused, the first hint that Manhattan's power could touch the foundations of his being. But then the Devourer's will surged, reinforced by eons of cosmic necessity, and he rejected the rewrite, with a burst of force that shattered the moon beneath them into dust. They fought across space without pause. Galactus unleashed storms of antimatter, gravitational singularities, and sun-scorching plasma. Manhattan phased through some attacks, redirected others, and reassembled himself when torn apart. In return, he collapsed quantum probabilities to trap Galactus in loops of repeating moments, only for the Devourer to break free with the raw push of infinite energy. Yet there was a difference in their endurance. Galactus, fueled by the power cosmic and his indomitable nature, could sustain his offense indefinitely. Manhattan's precision and reality-altering powers were vast, but each major act required focus, and Galactus forced him into constant reaction. The turning point came when Galactus stopped aiming for Manhattan's body and struck instead at his timeline. With ancient cosmic senses, he located the thread of existence binding Manhattan across every point in time and seized it, stretching it taut. This was not something any mortal could survive, but Galactus was the embodiment of a universal constant. With an exertion that rippled across multiversal layers, he dragged Manhattan into a singular moment, collapsing his perception of all timelines into now. For the first time, Dr. Manhattan's calm broke. The sudden linearity trapped him, stripping away the advantage of his all-at-once vision. He reacted with raw force, detonating an explosion of energy equivalent to a supernova at point-blank range. The blast engulfed them both, annihilating everything within millions of miles. When the light faded, Galactus still stood, scorched but unbroken. Manhattan was there too, but dimmer, his glow fading, his form less defined. Galactus, you are powerful, but you are not above balance, and balance demands that you fall. He reached forward, not with a beam or blast, but with his hand, and closed it around Manhattan. The power cosmic surged like a tidal wave, not destroying him outright, but compressing his quantum structure into a single fixed form, something Manhattan had not been for decades. And then, with the inevitability of a black hole consuming light, Galactus absorbed him into himself. The void storm ceased. The null zone began to stabilize. Across the stars, the creeping erasure stopped. Galactus stood alone in the silence, his hunger momentarily stayed by the energy he had consumed. He turned back toward his ship, knowing that this was not the first time he had been forced to preserve the multiverse, and it would not be the last.